How we doing? Do we have a first slide?
I don't know, do we?
Yeah, I think we have a first slide. So, there we go. Aloha. Aloha. As it came from my girlfriend, who this morning actually, Kay got it up there pretty quick. She was born in Oahu and grew up there. She was actually in the same class with Obama in the same high school. They had a picture from their class, a class picture, and it made Vogue when Barack Obama was running for president, and she said that was the only time in a way she was going to get in Vogue. So let me just set the scene. January 20th, the first day, I was a nervous wreck, of course, but that doesn't matter. What happened was, you know, as everyone knows, really, probably everyone, is that Reverend Terry retired, and our licensed Unity teacher retired, and so did the lease of the building we're in, it retired. And luckily, CSL opened their arms, the board, Bonnie and the board came in and opened their arms to us, and we have this home here, beautiful home here now. And before I move on, I want to thank a friend of mine who some of you may remember, Dove Flowers. She lives in Mesa, Arizona now, and bless her heart, she let me practice on her over the phone for this first talk. And the first talk was named, does anyone remember the name of, or the topic of the first talk?
Something about change?
Change. I thought it was a pretty good idea. So, and you remember I quoted a woman, her name Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Anybody remember what she's famous for? Frankenstein. Yeah. And so she says, you know, nothing is so painful to the human mind as a great and sudden change. And that's true, isn't it? This is what we think we know about change. Change is scary, and she knew that. She wrote about scary, didn't she? And it's to be avoided at all costs. So that's what we came in here with. And then I quoted Brendon Bruchard, who is one of my faves, as you know, because I keep quoting him. And he wrote this in a book he wrote called, it's called Motivation Manifesto, The Motivation Manifesto, written in the language of the Declaration of Independence. This book, should you pick it up, which I highly recommend, he's always giving it away for free too, check the internet. It is written as your personal manifesto, your personal Declaration of Independence, from everything, whether it's yourself or others or whatever the case may be. And he wrote these 3 costs of change. 1, uncertainty. Change is unknown, and we don't know what's going to happen. It might be uncomfortable. 2, others may not understand and are liable to judge. Well, there's been a change of circumstance, so nobody really knows what's going on sometimes. Struggle. There may be struggle and work. They may have to do things we hadn't had to do before. But Brendon says, be okay with the struggle, which is a very zen and accepting thing, in a way of looking at it. I like the attitude. Because courage and fear can and do coexist. Because, you know, we can feel the fear, but also summon up the courage, can't we? So that's why they can. And we honor the change. We honor our experience of change. Because sometimes that experience, the personal experience of change, may be messy and ugly and maybe even snotty-nosed, but we honor it, whatever it is. It might be that we exhibit excess of humor. Well, is there such a thing as excess of humor? Nah. There we go. So what do? We allow ourselves to grieve any kind of change that is involved with this. We allow ourselves to grieve. And what do we do to help that along? We add a heaping scoop of kindness. Sprinkle our days with more smiles, and as for ourselves as well as others. And we remember to meditate and pray. I wish I could say meditate the same way Ken does when he impersonates Deepak Chopra, but you get the drift. Meditate. Because of who we are, Unity peeps, we have joy and the willingness to be willing. So that helps us through change. And that helped us segue right on into the next week, which was on openness and curiousness. So being open and curious. And I used a lot of quotes this week to help provide us tools for our spiritual toolbox, if you remember. So here we go. The first one. Anybody heard of Walt Whitman? Okay. Be curious, not judgmental. And then Brendon Bruchard again, because no, I love the guy. He's awesome. The Charge. This comes from his book, The Charge. Activating the 10 human drives that make you feel alive. Love that. This is what he says, and you're going to remember this because it has a thing. You are a child of God, and that alone makes you worthy of care and love. If your guard is up, let it down. If you constructed a defensive wall to protect yourself and keep out all the bad guys, oh, don't forget who that also prevents from getting in. The good guys. And also from Herbert Spencer, some of you might remember or have heard of this before, besides that Sunday in January. And he lived, Herbert Spencer, between the years of 1820 and 1903. There is a principle which is a bar to all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. And lucky for us, we weren't sure what we were getting into, but we kept that contempt down with faith and courage and all the other goodness. And then Albert Einstein, with his wonderful hair. The mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. So then we talked about being open and curious, and we likened that to a creek. So if we're not open and curious, we're like a stagnant creek. Remember that? Dammed up, mud-filled, algae-ridden, backed up, and something you wouldn't want to wade through, right? While being open and curious, we're energetic, clear water, happy, bubbling sounds, and a fertile space for life. So that's what it brings. In times of change, we may throw our hands out in resistance. This is when we take a breath and we reach on in and grab for our discernment, our curiosity, and our openness. How open are we to the flow of life? How open are we to receive as well as to share? So there's a light inside of us. We know that. God's light. Hang on a second. My iPad is doing weird things. I think it's the user. So there's that God light. And guess what? Like a fire that we tend to, that we stoke and we care for, it can shrink or it can grow, depending on our attention to it. Charles Fillmore likened this light or this spark to zeal and enthusiasm in his book, The Revealing Word. Now we Unity peeps, students of metaphysics as we are open to learning and growing. Our openness and curiosity allows God's light to better shine inside of us as well as through us into our world and to others. And if that's not a good enough reason to be open and curious, it just feels better. Am I right? Mm-hmm. So relax, recognize, release, and receive. I have a slide. I don't have many today, but I do have one here. You might remember this one. So the Hawaiian word for steadfast, onipaha, it fits right in with our mission to be open and curious, and comes from Hawaii's revered queen, Liliʻuʻokalani, who reigned until 1893. Be steadfast in the seeking of knowledge. The next week, I had a miserable something going on. Cold, I was living on Sudafed, which I hate to take. I'm not a person who even takes aspirin. But it got me through, and I was so pleased because I had a lot to share on release and let go. Just like I was releasing and letting go of something, who knows what. So I shared my personal go-to affirmation, and I shared it in such a manner as I gave you each one. Hopefully you still have one. If you don't, there are a few still left on the table over there until I print another one up. I fully and freely release and let go all that which does not belong to me, and loose myself to my own good. Only the highest and best is manifest in my life and being. Now remember, we say the word loose. We don't say the word lose because we don't want to find it again. I don't want to lose 10 pounds and then find it again, right? So we loose ourselves to our own good. So what has letting go to do with spirituality or spiritual growth? I have a quote here, and I want to point your attention to this book in the middle here. It's from Denise Linn, Space Clearing. She's a fantastic woman, and if you haven't sought out some of her information or looked on YouTube or on her website, give yourself the treat of doing that. And this is her quote: "Perspective. Letting go of physical stuff equates with letting go of emotional stuff from your life. In truth, clutter clearing is never about just the stuff. It addresses other things going on beneath the surface." So acts of letting go affect our mental, emotional, and spiritual selves through intention, through our intention. We weed the garden of our minds as well as our physical world from things that are worn out, no longer applicable, and that we have proven to be incorrect. Because we might have believed it was true 5 years ago, but now it just doesn't fit anymore, or whatever, right? So doing this, we acknowledge the correlation between letting go and spiritual growth. And by doing that, we realize how easy the flow is, because we're open and the flow is flowing, just like the song we sang and the affirmation and reading from Daily Word. So the use of intention with letting go of things on the physical planes, remember, affects all the other levels of us. And you also correlate the intention of being preparing for intentional receiving, because as we might remember, nature abhors a vacuum. So, like those 10 pounds, I want to intend something else coming in right away, because I don't want to have the same kind of thing, whether it be the same size, the same smell, the same shape, or whatever it is, coming back. So I want to intentionally, at that point, say to the universe, say to God, put in my prayers and affirmations and visualizations, what it is I really want. So we use those things I just mentioned, plus our thoughts, words, and actions in every phase of the process. Recognize, release, and replace. And the next Sunday, we talked about being receptive to receiving. And of course, we want to be intentional about the receiving, but we also want to be open to it, being receptive. So we talked about the blocks that people have that are known to them or unbeknownst to them. And I center this all around fear, because it's almost always fear that is a block. Am I right? So I want to read this quote, which I found very handy on fear. And you've heard it before because you were there. If you were there on the 10th of February or watching it on YouTube, hi Mom. This is from Eleanor Roosevelt. "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face." So here we are. Here are some unbeknownst or known fears of blocks that we have that keep us from our good. Feeling unworthy, which could be undeserving or aiming low. Disbelief, an unbalanced or entrenched skepticism. Remember I was talking about that before? Outside influences, environment, people, a family legacy. We all may have heard of a guy who grew up, his family was dirt poor. Does he have to be dirt poor? No. Does he have to feel guilty for thriving and showing an example of the way forward? No, he does not. And so we can let go of the family legacy block. And there's the idea of impossible. Well, there's no way. I could never have that happen. Well, that feeling or belief of impossibility is not so swell, and it may also go along with fear of success. Another block we can let go of. Denying or ignoring our intuition. How many times have we done that and perhaps missed a window of opportunity, or knew that we needed to say a thing, or just say thank you? So that's another one. And again, they're giving and receiving imbalance. We talked about that Sunday. We talked about how it is, a lot of us don't mind giving. Giving is fun for us, and we like to do it. But sometimes it's not so easy to receive. And think about it. When you try to give someone a gift, whether it be some suggestion or an actual item, and what it felt like when they refused it, because they weren't capable of receiving. Not that they didn't like you, they just couldn't, they didn't have it in them. So that didn't feel so swell. So that's what we want. We want to be balanced in our giving and receiving. And then finally, a lack of focus. That kind of keeps us from receiving, doesn't it? Because we're too busy running around looking and being distracted by other things. And we're afraid to name that tune, perhaps. The thing we really want. And we're safely vague. And who wants to get something vague? Right? So we don't want to be safely vague. We want to get on it, and get a little more specific. Be directly in focus with our true desires. And we employ good spiritual hygiene. And we do this on all levels. Our thoughts, words, and actions on all levels. And that's something you hear all the time from me. Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. Using our prayer, our affirmations, our meditation, our visualizations. And I want to quote this. I love this. I really should put this on my walls everywhere. Every room should have it. Don't you think, Ken? This is from Charles Fillmore's writing, To Prosper. What are the rules of the law? First, God is good and all his creations are good. When you get that firmly fixed in your mind, you are bound to demonstrate good, and nothing but good can come into your world. Pray thus, he says, I am a child of the absolute good. God is good and I am good. Everything that comes into my life is good, and I am going to have only the good. Amen. Speaking of prayer, the next thing you might want to employ are the 5-step process. Unity's 5-step process. I'm on the wrong side on it. Yep, there we go. And relax, concentrate, meditate, embrace the silence, which is when we listen for God, and give thanks. And we use all 3, thoughts, words, and actions, not just the thoughts and the words. We step it up to receive. We use all 12 powers, all the 12 powers. We employ conscious and vigilant awareness, which means that we have to be our own watchdog. It's like self-witnessing. Are those negative Nelly thoughts trying to sneak in? And also, we align our thoughts, words, and actions with our desired goal. So that means we have to chase that safely vague business out of the way, and so we can align ourselves with our desire or goal. And the final thing here is being receptive, is to be allowing. Remember, Charles Fillmore talked about electric thought energy, the electric thought forms. The whole process is electric and alive with energy. And this is not a theory. So allowing is completing the circuit. So that's what allowing is. So that's important. Don't forget the allowing part, okay? This energy is of the stuff of the universe, and it's of God's essence. So it's nothing to be afraid of. And the very next Sunday, we talked about love, the stuff of God. Love is of the universe. Love equals God. Love is swirling, shifting, flowing, growing, uplifting, radiating, and expanding. Like an orchestral conductor, moving and shaping the quantum soup of the music. The artist communing with his or her mind's eye with the cosmos to manifest his or her desire in the world. Love is us. Myrtle Fillmore wrote, your heart, it is the throne of love, and God is love. Pretty cool. Love is now, in this moment, you in your chair right now. God is love and God is everything. And if that's the case, then love is everyone, every what, every when, everywhere, every why, every how. And it's life-giving, infusing us with God's vim and vigor or vitality. It's uplifting, it's healing, it's empowering, and love is very, very powerful. Recall the energy. Think back, it's okay. Recall the energy of falling in love. And what that felt like. Okay, and then extend this energy, of powerful energy of falling in love into in outward expression into the rest of your life, into those in your life, in all its different forms. So I also want to say that love not of this world is of this world. Love never dies. God is love and God is infinite, and God is love, so therefore love is never dying. We are the channelers, the directors, and the sharers of love. We choose love through joy, passion, bliss, gratitude, happiness, and compassion. So choose love. That's something that means that we're not getting it slapped on us. We're not being forced to do it. It's something that we choose. And when we choose, it's like opening that current or that flow of being open and curious, and we open that up, and that's when it starts to flow. And so the next week I thought, well, this would be a good idea. Let's just move on to the same idea, and we'll talk about self-love and self-care. It's not just about the self, though, because when we take care of ourselves, the people in our lives benefit as well. And it all starts here, right in our centers. Again with the centers, right? So I want to just draw a correlation. Like our eyes are the physical items in our body that we use the faculty of sight. It brings us sight. The other areas in our bodies that we have pointed to with these 12 powers are used similarly in a gently, loving way, and we acknowledge them. The more we acknowledge them, the more they are there. Strength, wisdom, love, power, zeal, faith, imagination, understanding, and will, which will be going a little slower and much more intimate when Daniel gives his meditation. Everything is connected, and all of the part of the all that is in every way, we are part of that, and everything is connected, from the macrocosm to the fine microcosm. Nothing is isolated, so everything is connected. So we focus beyond ourselves with self-love and with self-care via our prayer, meditation, visualizations, and so on, to each center, each of the centers. So, are you with me? Okay. And we focus them into the world. So we're going from the invisible world through our bodies, the physical world, and back out into possibly things that you can't see or you can see into the world. So what's the deal? What's the deal with this self-care and self-love thing? And we hear so much about it. Well, it's good spiritual hygiene for one. Think of this. Think of self-awareness and self-realization. Think also as above, so below. So the impact of our thoughts, words, and actions, whether they be loving or not, affects the mind. And so tired, uninspired thinking and emotions affect the body. So guess what else is affected? Our spiritual lives. Intuition is just one of those things. How open are we? How open are we as a conduit, a channeler, a director of this love? Now, I want to remind you of the experts. Remember that I talked about these experts, the disembodied researchers who came up with the number of 70,000 thoughts a day. That's what we think. 70,000 thoughts a day. 98% of those are repeats. Okay. Right? Remember that? And 80% of those are negative. But they don't have to be. And they probably weren't working with Unity people exclusively on that, I would think. So we are changing our thoughts through our self-love, truly. And I want to share this affirmation, the same one I shared before. If you want a copy of this, let me know and I'll get it for you. I acknowledge the path to my every desire is self-love. I understand it is not the selfish, but the self-full that readies me. My self-care and intentions align my actions with my thoughts and words. My self-love is a loving path. I am open to the whispers of divine love. My thoughts, words, and actions reflect my enthusiasm and zeal, and I have more to share with the world. Thank you, God. And then we came into this period of time which I was feeling a little nervous, Nellie, about, and that was Lent, the Lenten season. Never had talked about Linn to people, and so this was my first time, and I liked what I did. I don't know if it was party line, but it all worked out okay. So with the first Sunday of Lenten season, it was called Pre-Lent Heart, Mind, and Spirit. And this is just an overview. We fast from the negative thoughts: false, unworthy, mistaken, unnecessary, poverty-dwelling, inapplicable thoughts. We fast from both the subtle and the in-your-face addictions and habits and blocks to our highest and best. Remember the fear blocks we talked about earlier. And think about just everyday thoughts, words, and actions. And we feast through self-love and empowering our contact and communication with the divine through prayer, affirmation, meditation, and visualization. So that's how we feast. We feast on the positive, life-affirming, true, loving thoughts, words, and actions. And the next week we talked about Lent, creating our own ebb and flow, the rhythm of our own ebb and flow, creating our own Lent rhythm. Tide goes out, tide comes in. Tide out, fasting, letting go, preparing the hearth. Tide in, feasting, allowing, accepting, and sharing life's abundance. Keep a true Lent, a book that Charles Fillmore wrote. He said, in this inner realm, you will find the spiritual ethers heavily charged with ideas that turn to spiritual substance. And Abraham Hicks wrote, the greatest gift that you can give another person is your own happiness. Smile. Okay. And then it was St. Patrick's Day, and I'm like, oh, there we go. Okay, so St. Patrick's Day, and it was fun, wasn't it? And everyone came geared up for it. And I talked about St. Patrick, how he was kidnapped as a teenager, and how he lived as the slave with this Irish chief who was a pagan. And so he went back, he got away, and he went back to England, but he went back to Ireland as an adult. He took Catholicism with him. But before all of that, we had, the Irish actually did have their own religion, and that was the Gaelic gods and goddesses that were worshipped and honored in every part of their everyday life, from everything, art and farming, everything. Like the Tuatha De Danann that we talked about, and from the tribe of the Danu, which is also known as Dana. We also talked about how in the UK, the movement afoot about how a new thought was a movement. This was a movement, but it was hearkening back to their pagan roots, which are rooted in nature, and are reminded us of the Earth Care, Unity's Worldwide Ministries Earth Care, because that is rooted in nature. In fact, it's guided by a vision of sacredness and the interconnectedness of all, and the interdependence of all life. It's very much rooted in nature. And then one of my favorites, trash talk, self-talk, trash talk, smack talk. So is your self-talk positive and affirming? What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? And what tone are you using to say it? So remember I talked about how there are the old hatters. The old hatters who can transmute negative into positive thinking, easy peasy. They practice self-awareness. They're their own watchdog. They use self-encouraging, positive self-talk. And they're filled with poise and spiritual grace from morning till night. And then there are the rest of us who aren't the old hatters. And we have to be aware of the morning self-critical thoughts that start right away. The same old repetitive thoughts like the disembodied experts were trying to tell us. And just to remind us, we all have the power to change those thoughts. We don't have to be, what was it, 80% negative? I think not. And just to remind you, what talk and smack is more like that wrestler, the athletes kind of thing, where they pump each other up, false bravado, and sometimes to deflate an opponent by puffing themselves up to inflate themselves, which is an illusion. But there's also the coach part, and if you remember me talking about foghorn leghorn, I say, boy, stand up straight. Boy, he's talking to that chicken hawk. Stand up straight, chicken hawk. Get up in there. And so this is another form of it. Trash talk and talking smack at the self. Well, it deflates ourselves, it pokes at us, it picks at us, it undermines our confidence. It's toxic, and it could clog or encrust our sinners. We want them to be free-flowing, spinning in a beautiful light. So we want to use the loving, healing voice of the cheerleader, the booster club, the best friend, the confidant, the higher self. And listen for that divine self within. So what do? We redirect our thoughts. That's what we do. We believe in the power of God, the power of the universe within us. We remember that I'm a child of God without limits. I am a child of God without limits. And I want to just say, Dr. Joe Dispenza, another guy I really, really like. If you do nothing else, pick up his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's a great book, seriously. And so he says, if clear intention focuses on what, when you're redirecting your thoughts, then this step focuses on how you will go about creating the change necessary. So, for example, be grateful for getting a compliment that you haven't yet received, or having the sunny day that you weren't sure was going to happen. Be grateful for the gift not yet received. And that Sunday, I also introduced a man I had never heard of, but of course, the folks from Unity who've been Unity for so long will know Charles Roth, and that is gratitude is a spiritual enzyme that hastens the fulfillment of your prayer of faith. So gratitude, that's that supercharger. If you were looking for something to supercharge with, that's the place. And then on the last Sunday in March, how am I doing? Because I'm okay. Your unity in real life. And we had a little history lesson, and we talked about things, and you'll remember this. This is when I came across it for my very first time, so I had to kind of share it with you, and I keep doing it. And it's that Dr. E.B. Weeks that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore heard in Chicago, and it's what she said: I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Boom. That was the spiritual experience that Myrtle had, that Charles and Myrtle walked away with. Now, Dr. E.B. Weeks, she was a metaphysician and a New Thought student, a student of Emma Curtis Hopkins, and she inspired them to create the movement. But they were already students of metaphysics and New Thought themselves, and they were devotees of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a transcendentalist who hearkened back to the Greeks. So he was, besides being a great poet and writer, and they also studied Mary Baker Eddy and Emma Curtis Hopkins themselves. So I asked, who is unity? Because we're trying to say, this is what's happening. We're all here today. We get to see each other. We get to hug each other. We get to see the spark in each other's eyes. We get to laugh together, and we're here in person, and that's the deal. That's why, we want to talk about in real life, IRL, in real life. So I asked, who is unity? So this is what I found. Unity is a positive, practical, progressive approach to Christianity based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. Unity honors the universal truths in all religions, which is why they agreed to have someone like me here today, who wasn't ordained in the Unity Church, because they respected my path and respect each individual's right to choose a spiritual path, no matter where it takes us. So again, we acknowledge that the internet is useful for each one of us. For Unity, we use it a lot, and so we know it's effective and it's powerful and it's useful. It's not we're saying, don't use it. We're saying, come in real life. We weren't put here among 7.5 billion other people to just be alone, to try to figure everything out alone, to be in that alone bubble. Trust me, I get that very, very personally. So, let's get together let's get together and hug and smile and see that spark in each other's eyes and hear that laughter across the room. So what do we feel? This is what unity says. In unity, we feel a sacred responsibility, individually and collectively, to make a positive difference through personal example, an active service in our churches. I have that part underlined because so many of us are doing things, and it's very exciting. And we also include our communities and our world. So what do we feel personally? Do we feel a sacred responsibility, like they say? Do we make a positive difference through our personal example? I think so. And our active service? I think so. We of Unity of Las Cruces are breathing, walking examples of spirit. And I'd like to quote Martha Smock, who I discovered during the Lent season. There is no resistance in me. There is no tension, stress, or strain. I rest in God. I know that God is my life, my strength, and my healer. So there are some recurring themes that you may have heard throughout this. Getting out of our own ways to grow in our spiritual lives, letting go, self-love, sharing the life of God through our thoughts, words, and actions. So those are some things that you hear from me a lot, and I suppose that'll continue in different talks. And if you want more details, remember we have all of these talks in their total on YouTube. And so here we go. Well, there's the IRL. Poor doggy wants to get out and be in real life. Next. That's us. Us coming together, unity, coming together in real life. That's us. Life is a gift from God. Mahalo. Thank you so much. Now, if you'd like to prepare for meditation.
I am the Christ mind. I am, I am, I am. The superintelligence of the Christ mind is now expressing through me freely. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of faith with my faculty and power of strength. Faith, faith, faith. I have faith in God. I have faith in people. I have faith in things. I have faith in the healing power of God as it works mightily in me now. I have faith in the perfect outcome of every situation in my life because God is in absolute control. My faith now makes me whole. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of strength with my faculty and power of strength. Strength, strength, strength. I am a tower of strength, within and without. I let all burdens fall from my shoulders. I let all anxiety drop from my mind. I let all fear slip away from my heart. Let every shackle be loosened. Divine strength is making wise and true adjustments in every phase of my life. I relax, I rejoice, and I let it. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of judgment with my faculty and power of strength. I am satisfied with divine substance. The substance of God now erases all fatigue from my body. It renews tissues and replenishes energy. Divine substance stabilizes my mind and prospers my affairs. Every longing of my soul and every need of my life is now fulfilled. On time, in full, in the right and perfect time, place, and way. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of love with my faculty and power of strength. There is only love in my heart for everyone. I pour out my love to all mankind. I suppress or hoard nothing. I will now freely let God love through me, now and always. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power with my faculty and power of strength. All power is now given me in mind, body, and affairs. The power of God is now working through me to free me from every negative influence. Nothing can hold me in bondage. All power is now mine to control my thoughts, to vitalize my body, to experience success, and to bless others. I am strong in the Lord and the power of His might. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of imagination with my faculty and power of strength. I now picture only the best for myself and others. My eyes are single to the good, and my whole body is filled with light. Awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of understanding with my faculty and power of strength. I am intuitive understanding. Within me is the wisdom of the ages. The mind that knows how is showing me how. The mind that knows where will tell me where. The mind that knows when will tell me that. I know, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of will with my faculty and power of strength. I relax and let go. I relax and listen for the voice of intuitive understanding to unfold its good to me. I will to do the good will of God joyously. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of order with my faculty and power of strength. Divine order is now established in me by the power of the indwelling Christ. I am in divine order. My mind is in divine order. My body is in divine order. My perfect health is in divine order. Unity of Las Cruces prospering is in divine order. My perfect healing is in perfect divine order. Me being kind, considerate, and courageous is in perfect divine order. Me being compassionate, mindful, understanding, loving, tolerant, accepting, and understanding is the divine mother. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of zeal with my faculty and power of strength. I praise my mind as the perfect creation of divine substance now. I praise my emotions as the perfect creation of divine substance now. I praise this day as the perfect creation of divine substance now. I praise healing for our earth as the perfect creation of divine substance now. I praise this day and the best day of my life. I praise me being everything I can be today as the perfect creation of divine substance now. I now see more good in my life than I have ever seen before. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of illumination with my faculty and power of strength. I now willingly let go of every thought, condition, and or relationship that in any way retards my perfect healing. I am blessed with perfect elimination of mind, body, affairs, and relationships now. I now awaken, bless, and baptize my faculty and power of life. My faculty and power of faith, strength, judgment, love, power, imagination, intuitive understanding, divine order, divine zeal, divine illumination, divine life, life, life. Life, life, life. I'm filled and thrilled with vitalizing life. I'm alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. I'm the ever-renewing, the ever-unfolding expression of infinite life. Life, life. I, a tiny bubble of laughter, have become the sea of mirth itself.
Thank you, Daniel.